All right, y'all. What's up? It's King. Take my glasses off because the light is still in my face like it always is. Anyways, I'm back. This is gonna be kind of a lazy video, y'all. I'm not even gonna lie. It's gonna be a quick one. I found myself kind of falling into like old habits of like, oh, this isn't really popping off right now. I could take a break, or don't worry about it. I'll do it tomorrow. Yada 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 yada. The same drama from last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever, right? So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll make a video today and work on my project, and we just gonna go for it, okay? Again, this is totally unscripted. If you're not into this, that's cool. But if you want to just feel like you're kind of hanging out with the homie, this might be the video for you, okay? Now, because I noticed myself falling into these old habits, the topic of today is going to be finishing what you started. I just feel like that is so fitting. I feel like it works for what we're talking about. Now, before we even talk about that, can y'all see these little mountains down here? I've made quite a bit of progress on this painting. It's going a little slower than I had originally hoped, but it's still going faster than what I'm used to, if that makes any kind of sense. I am using oil paints and earth pigments with walnut oil, so the dry time is kind of mixed based on, I guess, the pigment that I'm using. Like, I'm noticing the yellows, I should say, and like the pinks are drying kind of quickly, but like the blues, dare I touch it? Yeah, the blues are still just a little bit damp. I'm still getting a little bit of pullback if I try and like paint up there right now. So I'm focusing really on this hand today. I did a little bit of work to the hand. It's a little bigger. It still looks kind of funky. Yes, I did purposely do 4 fingers instead of 5. I want to kind of push that like alien-ish vibe. It's not an alien, but it's alien in a sense of like, we don't know what it is, you know? And forgive me for chewing. I just had some trail mix. But yeah, let's go ahead and start finishing what we started. Yeah, so we'll talk about that a little bit. Like I said, I found myself falling into old habits. This weekend was kind of a wild one for me. It was my niece's birthday, which is, fun. We were celebrating her birthday, and then honestly, just kind of like one thing happened after the other. Like, we had a little sleepover with the kiddos. I did some work. I had some school stuff to do, along with doing some work. I took over some projects for wifey, so she didn't have to do everything by herself. And I'm not saying that solely like took up my time. Like, that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is I felt so like overwhelmed and kind of busy this week, especially this weekend, that I noticed myself falling into those old habits of, oh, I'm stressed out, I'm just not going to do anything. And the excuse was like, I could do it tomorrow, or like, this is more important, I'll put this here to the side, or, stuff like that. And I found myself kind of procrastinating, like I was supposed to have finished certain parts of this painting like a week ago, and I didn't do it. And I was supposed to record. I've been trying to record like every other day, even if I don't post it. Like, I don't post everything I record. Sometimes it's just like me throwing ideas out there, just me like vlogging and kind of talking to myself, so I can look back and like see where I was mentally and like all that stuff. So not everything is something I'm posting, but a lot of it is, a lot of it is, forgive me, I'm like straightening my jacket. A lot of it is stuff that I would want to post, stuff that I told myself I would post, just to kind of get myself out there, get myself out of my comfort zone, all that good. Anyways, what I was saying was old habits. Found myself falling into those old habits, found myself being like, oh, I don't have to do this. Like, something I want to do, but I don't have to do it. And let's unpack that right there. Okay, let's unpack that real fast. So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. We're not even talking about, you know, YouTube and painting and blah blah blah. Let's go all the way back to a couple years ago. I told myself that I wanted to buy a flute. Okay, so I hyper fixated on this flute for like freaking forever. I've always loved like musical instruments and things, and my toxic trait is that I just know in my heart that I can literally do absolutely anything. That is my toxic trait. And so I guess it's not that toxic, but you know, in my head, I can literally do it all. Even if it sounds like shit, I can do it. Like I'm killing it, you know? So I researched this flute. I was like, ooh, I want to learn how to play the flute, like native style. And so I got a fucking flute. Bought it from Etsy. It's beautiful. I still have the flute, guys. And I was playing it every day for a while, actually. I played it so much that my wife like hated listening to it in the morning. And then after that, I was like, ooh, you know what would be awesome? What would be so badass is if I had the flute and did loops with the flute and the guitar, right? Like really cool, meditative, like guitar solos and like flute. Again, I've always loved instruments. I cannot play the flute and I cannot play the guitar, but in my brain, I could do it. So then I start researching guitars, right? And just stay with me. I'm making a point here. So I start researching guitars. I ended up getting 2 guitars. One was gifted to me, which was really sweet, by a friend of ours for Christmas. And the other one I bought myself. It was an electric guitar. So I had an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar. And I loved them. I still have them. I still love them. But I do not play them, okay? Now, at the time, I was playing it every day. You know, I'd committed to an hour a day for all 3 instruments. An hour on the acoustic, usually in the morning because it was a little quieter. An hour on the electric. I even invested in like some, a little micro amp that I could plug headphones into so I wouldn't wake people up. And an hour on the flute. That was usually typically in the evening or like at night as well. And I would do it in the office with the door closed. So anyways, I made this schedule for myself. I was supposed to do everything each day for an hour, no questions asked, no excuses, right? So this is what I'm doing for almost like a year. And then every day, nonstop, I'm, you know, adhering to this schedule that I've given myself. And I was doing... Well, that's a little harsh. I was doing pretty good for about a year. It's still kind of harsh. Let's thin that out with a little bit of oil. I was practicing every day, whether I was sick, whether I was working, whether it was 12 a.m., 2 a.m., whatever. If I came home late from work, I would practice if I didn't get it in the morning. If I didn't get the practice in the morning, okay, I had to do triple in the afternoon and the evening. You know, like I was making sure I was getting the time that I told myself I was going to get, right? That's what I'm getting at. So anyways, one day I woke up and I was like, you know what? I don't feel like doing it today. So I skipped the flute. And then the evening rolls around, or the afternoon, lunchtime rolls around, and I was like, you know, I'm having such a nice slow morning. I'm going to skip the guitars today too. So I had already ahead of time told myself, I'm skipping the guitars. I'm not doing anything today. I'm going to do some other stuff, right? And I'll just do it tomorrow. Next day rolls around and I was like, dang, you know, it feels so good to have like a break, right? Like I just don't want to do anything. So I'm just not going to do it, right? And then this continued for a while. So then it became I was playing like every other day, and I noticed the slip too in my skill. So I was instead of playing every day, I was playing every other day. Went from every other day to every like 2-3 days, from every 2-3 days to like once a week, from once a week to like once a month, and so on and so on. So I went from practicing consistently for a whole year to just nothing, like overnight, like in less than like 4 months, just because of one slip, right? And I probably like, King, that was a really long way to get your point across. And I say all that for a reason, right? It only takes one slip, guys. It takes one freaking slip. And the other day, I have been waking up and painting every single morning, but I haven't been recording every time I paint. And I told you guys earlier on, this journey of mine is special because I am afraid of being in front of the camera. I am horrified of being on camera. I don't like really talking to people that I don't have like an initial connection with. I know that sounds silly, but it's true. And stay with me. I'm going to walk off and grab something real fast. But I don't like any of that. And yeah, so this is important for me because it's pushing me to get outside my comfort zone. Oh, this is not charged. Let me throw this back on the charger. But yeah, it's pushing me to be outside my comfort zone. Sorry, it was loud over there because the AC was over there. But yes, it's pushing me to be outside my comfort zone. It's pushing me to do things I wouldn't normally do. It's helping me get over that fear, right? So when I committed to recording and painting or recording and drawing every single day, the intention was to do that rain or shine, no matter how I'm feeling, right? And so the other day when I caught myself being like, maybe tomorrow, I was like, whoa, not again. Like, no, we're not doing this again. So that's why I'm here right now with you guys, talking about what we're talking about, you know? And like I said, y'all, it only takes one slip. Now you're probably like, King, but you need a break here and there, right? And yeah, you're right. But a break should not go from one day to like 3 months, you know? Like, breaks should be planned. Breaks should be conscious, you know? They should be something that you kind of work around and then you get right back to it. Now, if you're like me, and you like to, put things off or tell yourself you'll do it later, personally, I don't think breaks are the way to go. I think maybe doing something a little bit more relaxed would be the way to go. So like, instead of practicing for an hour at the guitar, right, I could have practiced for 10 minutes, because 10 minutes doing something you don't want to do will quickly turn into 30 minutes because you're so happy that you just did the thing that you were supposed to do, right? Just like this video. Like, I didn't want to get on here and talk. I did not feel like painting right now. I didn't feel like doing any of that. But it's already been what? It's been 15 minutes, guys. I've been talking to this camera and to you guys for 15 minutes. And I didn't even think I would last 5. You feel me? And that's why it's so important to push yourself. You know, get outside your comfort zone. Even if you don't want to do the thing, do the thing. All right, like just do it. Just get up, hype yourself up, be your own hype man. Okay, if you don't know what I'm referencing, go check out my first video. But be your own hype man. You know, pump yourself up. Tell yourself, you know, we got this. Make yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or whatever in the morning, and just get it done, or whatever your schedule is. If you told yourself you're gonna practice the guitar, practice the damn guitar. You know, make time for the things that you have deemed important. And, you know, we got to finish what we start, because if we make habits out of that, it becomes a bad habit so freaking quickly, you know, and you're not just letting yourself down, but you end up letting other people down too, you know. And you're probably like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, no, I didn't promise my mom I was going to do the guitar. Well, yeah, you're right. But what I'm getting at is if you make a promise to yourself, right? You make a promise to yourself that you're going to do this thing, and then you make a habit out of breaking those promises to yourself. Well, how are other people going to, expect you to keep a promise to them? You feel me? Like, if I can't keep a promise to myself, and I am the most important person in my life, right? So if I can't uphold this promise, uphold this commitment that I made to myself and make myself proud, how is somebody else going to view that situation? Like, how is somebody else going to expect me to do that same thing for them? And then people start, what's the word I'm looking for? People start associating you with that person who can't finish anything. And y'all, I don't want to be that person. I know y'all don't want to be that person. And another thing you don't want to do is set yourself mentally up for failure. Like I said, I am the most important person in my life, and I'm not an asshole, I swear. I say that because I fully believe that if you cannot make yourself happy or love on yourself or be there for yourself, how are you going to do that shit for anybody else? Which is why I say I'm the most important person in my life. So I got to make sure that I can do right by me before I can do right by anybody else. If I can't do right by me, everybody else is screwed. And that's just the truth of it. And what I don't want, what we should not want, is to set ourselves up for failure mentally. The things you do, your actions, you're wiring your brain every time you do something. Like, every time you go to work when you don't want to go to work and make that money or whatever, every time you don't want to do it, you're teaching yourself discipline. You're being disciplined. You're being dedicated. You're doing what you got to do, and you're telling your brain, this is what we have to do right now. It's okay. We don't want to do it, but we have to do it. And I kind of think it's messed up too that we can do those things for like other people, like work or a job or strangers or whatever, but we can't do that stuff for ourselves. Like, we need to be upholding these promises to ourselves. Because if we can't make ourselves happy and we can't keep promises to ourselves, how are we supposed to expect other people to think that we can do the same? Or like, how are we supposed to expect other people to treat us that way? It's kind of like if somebody was to like walk in your house and you had like trash all over the floor and like your walls are messed up or whatever, your fridge is chaotic, right? And y'all order pizza and the trash can's right there. I mean, why would they get up and go throw the box in the trash when you have shit all over your floor? They're going to toss it on the floor just like you've been tossing it on the floor. You know why? Because you have already conditioned that person to think, oh, this is how they treat their space. This is how they treat themselves. Why would I be any different? I should treat them the same way they treat them, right? And that's how that kind of stuff works. So you have to treat yourself with respect. You have to treat yourself with discipline. You have to put yourself first, because if you're not putting yourself first, you cannot expect other people to treat you the same way. If you can't keep a promise to yourself, you can't expect other people to keep a promise to you either. And you can't expect other people to look at you as a promise keeper, for lack of a better word. Other people are going to associate you with not being able to finish this, or oh, they can't do that, or don't expect them to do it because they can't even do this for themselves. And that's crazy. And again, like I said before, we don't want to condition our brains to expect us to fail, because before you know it, you'll stop trying. You'll stop caring. You'll stop doing all the things you're supposed to do to make yourself happy. And that ain't right, yo. That's not right. All right. Anyways, I'm done preaching. let me tell y'all what I'm doing real fast. So I am working on the sorcerer's head. I said that right today. I'm working on the head. I did just kind of lay down another base coat for the hand. The color's a little bit off, but I'll work around that in a second. I did lay down the base coat for this kind of like glowy orb. I wanted to show you guys that my iPad's actually dead. So I'll like insert a little clip somewhere over here eventually when I do whatever minimal editing to this I end up doing. And yeah, right now I'm just doing a little bit of detail work to kind of make this thing pop. My goal for this piece was that I wanted these blues to almost look like they are glowing, you know, because that's what it was like in my dream. You know, the figure was just glowing. So that's the goal. The inside looks a little bit different than what was in the dream, but all three of these figures look a little different. If you didn't know, this is a 3 painting series. It's called The Ancient Ones. It's all from my little dreamscape that's up here in my brain. And a part of my process is I will start the piece. So it starts off with me writing in my dream journal, or like writing in my iPad if I wake up in the middle of the night, or doing a really crappy sketch in the middle of the night. It starts with one of those things. Typically it's me writing something down just because it's easier to write sometimes versus draw. And then stage 2 is I then get up or I review the material that I wrote down, and then I draw if I haven't already done that, right? This series I happen to start off with the writing first, then a crappy sketch to go with it. I don't know how I understood the sketch, but I did. And then after I do the crappy sketch, which is usually like stick figures or something like that, lots of arrows pointing to this and that, then I'll throw it in my iPad and I will intuitively sketch for no more than an hour. I try and limit it to an hour because I feel like anything longer than that is not intuitive, it's planned. So I kind of let my intuition take over. You know, I have no expectations, and usually this consists of me just taking a few colors that feel right, usually from the dreamscape, so like yellows, blues, pinks, purples, and I'll just kind of scribble with like a really fluffy brush, right? There's this, what's it called? The soft blend brush in Procreate. And you know how it kind of blends into, you know, whatever your background colors are, kind of like a pencil would, or something if you were to smudge it. So I sketch with that because it keeps it really loose. And whatever my brain starts to see after intuitively sketching is what I go with, if that made any kind of sense. I'll pop in a process video either in this video or the next one if I can, just so you guys can kind of see what that looks like. It's pretty cool. I really like intuitive painting. I used to do that, not on the side, that's not the right word, but I used to do intuitive like color analysis pieces for people, or like, I don't know what to call it, but I used to do this outdoor market. And I used to do these intuitive paintings for people. They were on really small canvas sizes. They were like, I don't know, 8x8, 4x4, something really small like that. And people would come in. They would, you know, I don't even need to know their name, but like they could tell me their name if they wanted, and then just tell me basic things about them, you know. I just wanted to get people to start talking. And it was never a deep conversation. It was always like, oh, what's your favorite color? You know, what are you guys doing today? Blah, blah, blah. Like things like that, just to get people going. The session itself only lasted about 5 minutes, but I got so much information just from hearing people's voices in like 5 minutes. And it was a really cool thing that I was doing. You know, I made a few friends in the process. I met some really cool people doing that, and it's fun to see people's hesitation first. I mean, hell, I hesitated at first because I was terrified of doing something like that because it's a very intimate thing to do. And really, you just never know what's going to happen. But I would sit there for 5 minutes, let them talk about their day or whatever, whatever, just to hear their voice. And I would just let my intuition kind of take over. I usually start with like crazy colors, like I said, and then I kind of refine it as I go. And in 5 minutes, I was able to kind of analyze that person. I remember one lady specifically, that one really stuck with me. That's when I was like, okay, yeah, like I always had a feeling that it was, legit. I don't think I'm a fake at what I do, but I think sometimes you need a reminder that the universe kind of works through you versus you just kind of making shit up as you go. So this one lady, I was sketching. I started off with this bright, bright, bright yellow. And then it just turned so gloomy, like the colors. I don't know why, but they started to mud out. And I let them mud out. I was like, okay, whatever. And she's talking, she's telling me what they're going to go buy and blah, blah, blah. And I'm listening to her voice and I'm feeling it out. And before I knew it, I ended up with this dragonfly on this little canvas, very abstract dragonfly. It started off yellow, like I said, and then kind of mudded out. And I was like, okay, I'm done. It was very quick. This wasn't even 5 minutes. This was like, I don't know, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that. Crazy, crazy short. And she was like, oh, that was fast. And I was like, yeah. So I turn around and she's kind of looking at me like, the hell is that, right? And I'm like, hey, stay with me. Let me tell you what I got from you. It was actually pretty fast, right? So I tell her the story about dragonflies. When my mom was, when I was a kid and I was younger, and my mom was talking to me one day. We saw some dragonflies, and she used to say that dragonflies are your guardian angels. That dragonflies were messages from God or the universe or whatever, that someone in a higher place is looking out for you or is present with you at the moment, right? Like trying to deliver a message to you. And so I tell her this story and I see this dragonfly, and I already know someone in her life has passed, someone that she's really close to, right? And I tell her that. I'm like, okay, so like, here's the story of the dragonfly, my mom, blah, 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 blah. Like, this is what this means. I know you lost somebody. Who was it? Tell me about that. Because I see, like I said, the colors started off bright and then they got really muddy. And so what I explained was that I see, things were okay. And then all of a sudden they weren't. You went through some sort of depression or some really hard time in your life. I'm assuming it was the death of that loved one. So, what's going on? How are you feeling right now? Am I getting warm? Right? And when I tell you, she just started kind of like gawking at me, like, who the fuck are you? And then she started crying, and I felt so bad because at first I was like, oh my God, I fucked up. Like, I fucked up. What did I do? And then she was like, I came in here with doubts, and I don't know what you got going on, but you really hit the nail on the head. So she starts opening up about, I think it was her grandma. It was a grandma or grandpa situation, right? They were really close. They grew up together. And basically this person raised her. They lived in the same house. The whole family was always together, blah, blah, blah. Like they did everything together, right? And then he or she, might have been a he because I defaulted to he. So this person then passed so suddenly, and none of them were expecting it. And it was a really sad moment for the family. Obviously, passing is always very, very sad. But she's telling me this story, and I am just shocked because, one, like I said, I don't think I'm a fraud, but I was not expecting to be correct. You get me? Like, again, sometimes you need a reminder that the universe works through you, not against you. things like that, you know. And for me, that was that reminder that, okay, something else is happening here. I should really hone back into this. I should pay closer attention to this. And honestly, that was the day I stopped doing those public readings. And I'm going to tell you why. I stopped doing them because it was so personal. And I was kind of in shock at, you know, everything that went down. And at the time, I wasn't charging a bunch. I think I was charging like $20, but it just felt so wrong to charge for something like that, because it was so personal, you know. And I'm not saying if there are any healers out there looking at my video and you're like, what the hell? Like, of course I'm going to charge for my time. Yes, charge for your time, right? I'm just saying, for me, I was still kind of new. I was still experimenting isn't the word. I was still trying to figure it out. You know, like, I was still trying to figure out, well, what was going on? How am I able to do this? Like, what's happening there that I'm not quite understanding, but trying to embrace? You feel me? So that's why I stopped doing it. And I was done. But it was a really cool thing I did, and I feel like it happened for a reason, because again, it made me pay attention to the things that, you know, we really can't see on the surface, you know. And maybe I'll make a video about that some other time, on, you know, intuition and how I kind of developed it from a kid to an adult, and all that good stuff. If that's something you guys are interested in, you can let me know down below in the comments. But yeah, that was a wild ride, dude. That was a wild ride. I don't even remember how we started talking about that. Oh, because I was explaining how I paint intuitively, and that's how that really stuck. So after that session, that last session, I stopped doing the intuitive readings, and I started practicing painting more intuitively. That's what I was getting at. So I'd always kind of let my intuition start me off, but I never really let it. Is my mic still on? Yes, it is. I have to check this because sometimes it goes off on me when I start talking about this kind of stuff. But I would start off painting intuitively, and then I would let my artist brain take over. And at the time, it was really making my projects harder, because I was fighting with my intuition and my artist brain. You know, my artist brain would be like, no, do this. That composition is wrong. This isn't working out. These colors don't go. And my intuition would be like, nah, let it flow, dude. Let it do what it does. Like, just let it be. It's going to come together in the end. And so you've got these two opposites just like clashing. And honestly, it was really hard to finish projects because of it. It's really, really hard. Now, I did kind of get it a little bit more under control. I'm not perfect at it, but I feel like I'm doing a lot better than I was, especially more recently, now that I have, you know, started back with my spiritual practice and things like that. It just feels a lot more natural, you know, so I think a little less and I do a little more. And I vibe with that. I like that. That hand is looking a little better. I need to trim up the sides a bit, but I like it. Let me pull this a little closer so you guys can see it. Well, you'll see it later. It's fine. I'm doing the most. But yeah, y'all, that's how that started. My intuitive, well, it's not how that started. It's how it grew stronger. I feel like I really started honing in on being more intuitive and things like that when I left home for the first time, moved away for college. I got my, I don't know if I should include that. We'll cut that out. But I went to art school for like 2.5, 3 years, got my bachelor's in illustration It was a cool experience. But while I was in the process of all of that, a couple different things happened. I did go vegan. Don't say anything to me in the comments. You do you. I'm gonna do me. But I did go vegan. And I'll tell you the story. So my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, but my wife was doing a weight loss challenge. And so she had committed to being vegan. Let me kind of smooth that out. She had committed to being or going vegan for like, I don't know, 2 weeks or a month or something like that. And she was like, do you want to do it with me? And I was like, hell no, I don't want to do that shit. Why would I do that? Why would I go vegan? Right? That was our conversation in a nutshell. And then I went home, and I don't know why, but, well, I do know why. The universe was like, girl, get your shit together. You can do this. But that conversation just kept replaying in my head of me being like, nah, why would I do that? That's stupid. Like, I don't want to do that. Why would I go vegan? Blah, 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 you know? And so I remember just kind of sitting in my little apartment alone, because none of my roommates were there. And again, I'm just replaying this in my head, and I'm like, huh, why wouldn't I do it? You know, like, what is the actual reason that I wouldn't do it other than it's something I don't quite understand and it sounds scary, right? That's really all it was. And I had that thought, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go vegan. So I went vegetarian. I want to say like almost overnight. I don't know if we had the competition first and I won. I did end up continuing the journey. She did not do it for the time span she wanted. She was like, fuck this is stupid. And teach their own, right? But I can't remember what happened first, but anyways, I basically went cold turkey overnight. I went from being a super heavy meat eater, bacon on everything, double, triple, quadruple meat on everything, give me all the meat and the cheese, to vegetarian, right? The last thing I did was finish up all the meat in my fridge, because I'm also not a wasteful person, like waste not, want not. So that night, I think I might have cooked up everything, or I prepared everything, and I probably brought some stuff to her place too, let them have at it. And the next day I was vegetarian. And I was vegetarian for, I want to say like 4 months before I was like, all right, next step, veganism. And while I was vegetarian, I was doing a lot of research on veganism because I wanted to do it, but I was afraid. I didn't really know how to jump into it. I really had that mindset of all I can eat is like lettuce and kale and fruit, and that's it. So I really didn't know what I was doing. So I was doing a lot of research, and I don't even know how, because I feel like if you deep dive into like veganism now, you don't get the same search results. But at the time, I got a lot of spiritual stuff. And one of the things that popped up was Zen Buddhism, right? And I had always had a fascination with like other cultures and their beliefs and practices and things like that. And so when I saw that, I was like, ooh, love this. I want to learn more about it. So I ended up buying a few books. I read some stuff. And if I'm remembering correctly, granted, this was like 10 or 11 years ago, so my brain might be a little mixed up. But from what I understood, Zen Buddhism has to do with well, it doesn't. A part of the belief is that you are not greater or less than any being on the planet, right? Like, we're all created equally, no matter what species you are. And again, I don't know why that's one of the things that popped up first, because I feel like if you search veganism now, you're not going to get that. But I got that. And I feel like it was meant to be, because that really changed my perspective on absolutely everything. And so when I read that and I saw that, that really did become my why. Like, okay, yeah, this is why I would do something like this. This makes sense to me. So again, I went from vegetarian to like 4 months. I started studying this book. I read it. I might have completed the book in like a couple days. And I remember after I finished it, one day I was just home existing. Again, I'm vegetarian at the time. And so I had a lot of cheese in my refrigerator. I'd loved cheese way back when. And when I cut out meat and like eggs and all that stuff, I never liked eggs anyways. I replaced it with cheese. And so one day I was just kind of standing in front of my refrigerator, very much like this. And I had the door open. I was like, ooh, what can I snack on? I want a snack. And I kid you not, guys, I just, not even conscious about what I was doing, I had grabbed a block of cheese. It was like this big. Like, can y'all see that? It was a big ass piece of cheese. And I unwrapped it, and I was very absent-mindedly like snacking on it while I am trying to decide what to snack on. And before I realized it, I think I might have finished the whole fucking block of cheese. And I remember just standing there for a while longer and being like, this is problematic. And so again, went cold turkey. I said, fuck it, I'm going vegan. So after I ate the whole block of cheese, I, again, packed everything up, prepared some stuff, let my roommates take some stuff. I think I brought some stuff to wifey's place, and I just stopped eating it. I stopped everything. And that was about 10 or 11 years ago. So it's been a really long time. I'm proud of that. And I said all that to say veganism got me more into spirituality. That's why I was kind of talking about that. And I found Zen Buddhism. I'm not a Buddhist, but I do like to kind of incorporate some of those practices into my daily life. And I learned all about, how they think about creatures on the planet. I learned about intuition. Like it took me down a spiritual rabbit hole, for lack of better words. That's what happened. And so I started studying all these things, intuition, different belief systems, the spirit world versus the natural world, like all of those things. And that's when I really started to get more in touch with my intuitive side. And the crazy dreams and stuff started to really come back. I had always had like these almost prophetic dreams when I was a kid, and I didn't understand it when I was a kid, so I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is scary as hell. And I won't give any examples because it is kind of personal, but I would dream things, and it was either they were happening while I was dreaming and I was unaware of it, so it was like I was seeing it in my head, or I would dream things and then something would happen later, and it was like the dream was almost like a warning or a message. And I still get those, but now I get those plus these, which are these like spirit beings that most times I will see in the middle of the night. It's usually at night when I'm trying to sleep. That's when all this happens. And I might like open my eyes to get a drink of water or something, and like, boom, there's this guy. Or the other night I had a really crazy moment where I opened my eyes, and I usually sleep with my book light on, because for a few reasons. One of them is because if I get up and I have a really crazy dream, I have light there to write something down if I want to use my journal. But also I'm blind and I can't see at night. So if I don't want to have to wake up, put my glasses on and go to the bathroom, I just want to get up, go to the bathroom, come back, get in bed, go to sleep, right? Wifers hates it, but it is what it is. So anyways, I woke up to get a drink of water, So I open my eyes, I'm still laying down, and I see this like see-through, glimmering figure just in front of me. It was so tall. It was wearing this like robe kind of garment, and it was so tall that I'm laying down in bed like this, like snoring, open my eyes, and then like what I see is just this mass, like crazy huge in front of me, and it seemed to stretch forever. And if there was no roof, it would have gone beyond the roof. That's how big this thing was. And it just took up so much space in the corner of where I was sleeping. And I remember waking up and being like, what is this? You know? And so that was kind of crazy. And you'll see that figure drawn out once I finish this one and the second one. That's going to be the third figure in this series. But that was really trippy. And that's usually how that happens. And then I kind of sketch them out. I journaled about it. And then I create a painting. Because I truly believe that this is all like a story that I'm meant to unpack. But also I feel like when I paint them, I kind of solidify that there's an understanding between us that like, yeah, I get it. You're not this scary thing I don't understand. You were sent here for a reason, and I'm here to listen, you know? And so that's a part of the reason I do it. I also feel like there's a message here for other people as well that they need to unpack. And so painting it just kind of brings it to life in a way. I don't know. But also they make really dope ass paintings. Really, really cool paintings. But yeah, y'all, I'm happy I hopped on here. I think the rest of this will be just like a time lapse. I don't want to talk too much today. I just wanted to kind of get some of that out. Depending on how long this video is, I will just turn the rest of this into a time lapse. If this video ends up being like 30 minutes long, I've got 48 minutes on the camera. So if this video ends up being any longer than that, I'm just going to upload a time lapse for the next video. Okay, so stay tuned. Thank you guys for tuning in with me again. My name is King. This is my cozy little art corner. I'm happy I had the opportunity to kind of check in and talk to you guys. I hope you guys are doing great too. And I hope that you're not making promises to yourself that you can't keep. You know, if you say you're going to do something, do yourself a favor and just do it. Get it over with. Make yourself proud. All that good stuff. And yeah, that's really it for this video, guys. Again, thank you so much for tuning in with me, and I will see you the next time. Peace.